Delighted to say we have a couple of Six Nations, two of the greatest ever Six Nations players joining us in the studio this morning. Jeremy Guscott and Jonathan Davies. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Morning, gents. Yeah,
How's
good
life?
to be here.
Delighted to have you.
Yeah,
everybody in good shape, tip-top shape, and
I wouldn't say tip-top, but
yeah,
but
more wobbly-dobbly.
Yeah, every time I come to Dublin, they have great hospitality, so I make the most of it.
That's your standard line, isn't it? Oh, great.
I do love it.
Yeah,
it's one of the best cities.
You look like you love it.
I know. I'm glad I'm on radio. I'm glad I'm on radio. I forgot I'm on Facebook as well. So no, it's I love coming here and. You know, when I was playing, yeah, then when I retired, I was lucky to do the television. So you know, it's always a great place to come, and you know, people.
There's never any edge.
No,
there's nothing.
Really,
you can go. I certainly, as an Englishman, can go to Edinburgh, and it's pretty direct. Wales is a little bit more fun. The French don't care, to be honest. But here, there's a great respect for all sports, not just rugby.
Yeah.
But there's a great respect for what goes on.
And I think it's it's a sport. You know, it is serious business, but I think it's you know, it's a great spirit over here, and they say, you know, that if whoever comes here and whoever plays, you know, the best and wins, they don't take it too serious. So it's a great place, you know, to come and play sport, to play rugby, and to watch it.
We thoroughly, we reserve the right to thoroughly despise ye when you're playing, but once the game is over, it's we can be a bit more relaxed about it.
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing, you know, like you know, now that we retired. You know, we never missed a tackle, or we never had a bad game, did we really? So,
to be fair, in both of your cases, I think they would have been rare.
Yeah. Oh, I don't know about missed tackles.
Do we? Oh, yeah. Do we still despise each other? The Warren Gatland comments, obviously, 10 years ago, that the Welsh players hate the Irish more than anyone else.
I think it's that, you know, the familiarity, because you know, in the Pro 14, you know, they play each other so often. And they come up and you know, there's so many press conferences. You know, I did just think it went a bit sour, especially, you know, with Warren, with his Irish connections. Maybe there was deep-rooted kind of problems or issues or, you know, grudges. But no, I just think, you know, the players respect each other. You don't see the players. You know, if you look at the England game at the moment, you know, they're all talking about the brutality and the war and. You know, I don't think there's need for it. You know, it's enough. It's physical enough on the field. So I think I think that's gone now. And with Pivac coming in, I think Pivac is a happier Kiwi, if I can call him that. You know, is there
such a thing?
Yeah. Well, I'm not sure actually. You know, they're all a bit grumpy, but I think Pivac is. He said a great statement. He's a retired policeman. And he looks at the game. I think his philosophy, he wants to play attractive rugby. But also, you know, as he said, he's a great line. He said, as a policeman, you know, when you go in to knock on someone's door to tell them that one of their family or friends have passed away through an accident or a murder or an injury, and then he says, look, you know, picking a team really isn't. There's nothing on that. So I think I think he's a lovely guy. You know, his persona is great. You know, he tries to play with us, to get the boys to play with a smile on their face. And I'm quite excited because of the Gatland era. You know, it's like 12 or 13 years, a long, long time. And it was structured and he had success from it. From now, I think, he said he's not going to, you know, change the wheel on the thing, you know, because they were successful. But he's going to add his kind of, you know, coaching philosophy to the Welsh side, and with Stephen Jones, you know, hopefully now with the defence and, you know, the set piece going well and their attitude, that Wales will, you know, I'm looking for a little bit more exciting to watch.
Do you think the rivalry Ireland and Wales maybe stems from the Grand Slam games?
Probably.
But that would that would get the you know, the heckles up if you're the team that's lost the first encounter that was for a big game. Because as a player, my big game was always Scotland, because that was my first big encounter in the Five Nations back then, and we lost the big one in 1990. So every year, Scotland was the game that I wanted to win the most. It wasn't the old rivalry was Wales. But, you know, we played club sides. Bath went over to Wales quite a lot, and there was no stigma for me going to Wales. Wales was Welsh clubs we were beating from the West Country, and I had no thing about the Welsh side. There was 27 years of hurt, apparently, between England
or Ireland
and Wales.
At that time either. There would have been, I mean, there might have been more intensity about the rivalry, but from a results point of view,
I think, you know, if you look back, you know, I think Ireland came over and tried to clinch a Grand Slam in Cardiff on a couple of occasions. So the bigger games, I agree with Jerry, the bigger games for Wales and Ireland has been those big games in the Grand Slam
and that
games.
creates the rivalry.
It does create rivalry.
It's up there, but if you consider since those comments were made 10 years ago, 15 games have been played between the two countries during that time. It's 8-7, something like that. Like that's probably, I'm sure,
and I think,
aspect of it as
and
well.
I think also, you know, with the Irish provinces dominating the Pro 14 and actually dominating the Welsh regions. You know, I've looked at it. I've been very close to it, and you know, they've actually smashed us up front. You know, in international and in you know, regional rugby. So you know, it's been difficult for Wales to kind of step up and not be bullied at international level. And apart from last year's Grand Slam game, where I didn't know where that performance came from. You know, we totally dominate the Irish pack, which is the first time I'd seen it for a long, long time. So, you know, on the Welsh perspective, I hope that again happens on Saturday. But I don't think that we will be as dominant, and it'll be a close game.
That's very interesting, because we're talking about this idea of, can Ireland get to a pitch where what happened last year doesn't matter? Because so many Irish people are going into that game against Wales last year thinking to ourselves, well, we're back now. The loss to England is old news. We're on a roll now. We've got a couple of wins in this tournament. And then Wales just put us back right down to earth again. And obviously that form leads into the World Cup. So there's a real concern in Ireland, I think, this week, looking into this Wales game, that a repeat could happen. I'm not sure what you guys think, whether or not that's possible.
Why is that always, because that happened, there's a possibility of it happening. Of course it can happen.
Sure.
But Ireland won the game. But people here will still go, yeah, but Scotland came back. Yeah, they came back, but they didn't win.
Yeah.
Ireland are solid. The pack is solid. You've got guys that have played well for a number of years. You've got experience. You've got the most experienced halfbacks that you could possibly have. They know each other inside out. They know how to run the team. They know the stadium. They know that even with the rain and the wind, how the conditions are going to play out. Yeah. And you've got some nice excitement there with Stockdale and Lama. I mean, the break Lama made last week was fantastic. Yeah. You need that bit of sparkle amongst the experience. And in the midfield, Ringrose goes, Henshaw comes in. It's solid.
I think we've got good balance. You've got good balance in the midfield. You've got experience in the half-backs. You've got good balance in the centres. I do like Lamore. You know, hopefully that, you know, he's trying to settling in. But I hope they kind of try and put him in a bit of space, because, you know, as a rugby fan, you want to see the best players with the ball in hand, and he is, you know, is so exciting. So, and I look at it, and I didn't know where that performance came from Ireland and from Wales last year. It was a total turnaround of previous encounters. But I think, you know, going back to England, when England came here and dominated him by a kicking game, I was disappointed that, you know, not only with Ireland, when they're playing international rugby, they don't seem, if they're losing, and England did a job on them the first game. They absolutely, you know, they had no space. They were, you know, physical. They out-muscled Ireland. And I thought they didn't have a plan B. And if Wales do replicate the performance of the Grand Slam game, I hope Ireland have got a plan B to change it. As I hope if Wales are getting bashed up front, they'll have to have a plan B. So that's the question: is adaptability. If they're not winning and the game plan isn't going well, to think on the field, not wait for a call from the coach, say, oh, you got to do this, go that. It's just a half. I got to say, right, hang on, we've got to change this. If we don't change it, you know, we're going to lose. And I think that's the case with Ireland, England, especially with their halfbacks, because if things don't go well with them, they say, oh, we better take Ford off and put Farrell. So that's the thing, is thinking what's in front of them and adapting to try and change the game when they're not winning. It's
interesting to hear you talk, because we here are obsessed with the idea that we've been chatting about it earlier on, that we're in a funk, that sort of pre-World Cup dip that we slipped into, that we're struggling to get ourselves the hell out of. England, it's very much more short-term, obviously, with last weekend in terms of what happened there. I guess moving beyond the bluster about you mentioned the comments a bit earlier on, we hate them, they hate us, and the general Eddie Jones outlook, let's call it. Is there a deeper problem there with England, or was it just they're missing some frontline players? When they come back in, everything is back to where it was? They
made too many errors. You cannot create momentum making errors. Yeah. You know, the way Ireland play is about possession. If they keep on dropping the ball, they've got no possession. and they lose momentum. England had 11 primary possessions in the French 22 and didn't score a try. And given how they've been scoring tries under Scott Wisemantel when he was the attack coach, it's quite interesting that nothing materialised under Simon Amor, who's the new attack coach that's come in. Owen Farrell was almost non-existent. He dropped 2 balls, which is you rarely see. George Ford's kicking game didn't come in until the second half. The forwards as a total as eight, and the four reserves ran a total of 52 metres. I mean, you see Standard do that on his own. They were totally ineffectual, and if you haven't got a pack making ground for you, giving you quick ball, and at the same time dropping ball, where can you go? You can't score.
If England have that possession again against any other side, they'll win.
They've got to cut out. If they cut out their errors, they're scored.
And that's where Scotland, Scotland came. And I thought they surprised Ireland last because we've always said, the pack is a bit weak, is a soft underbelly. But last week Scotland stepped up, and I was impressed with them. But they didn't win the game because they had so many turnovers, and of course the Hogg incident. But they try and play an open style, but they've got to be more clinical. Whereas Wales last week against a poor Italian side, they were clinical. Every opportunity they had, they scored. The issue with England for me is I don't understand why he's picking a Curry at 8. If you look at England when they play well, they have the ball, the Vinopola brothers, they carry well, Laws carries well, and then you have Tuolagi. And as we did something last night with Keith Wood, and you were saying, Jonathan Joseph is coming on a crash ball. He's not there to come on a crash ball. So at the moment, I'm not sure what they're trying to do.
Steve Diamond even has some pretty interesting things to say about it during the week.
Yeah, he wasn't happy with the number 8, So
I would bring Don Brandt in.
When you've got them.
And Hughes, Nathan Hughes from Bristol, and say, OK, you might not be the fittest right now, but they're the 2 best attacking number 8s in the Premiership. So
get Curry back on the flank.
Particularly against Scotland, where that's where England lost 2 years ago.
I don't get it. Why is he trying to pick? Someone like Curry. He's a great player.
English game either.
No, but if you didn't have a number 8, I'll totally understand it. Yeah, okay, let's chuck Curry in. But when you've got those players that Jerry have mentioned, I just don't understand why you go without the specialist 8. Where it's the main ball carrier.
Weirdly
from
ago, but statistically again, which is like this.
He's a changed man. He's a changed man. Unbelievable.
But England have lost more when Billy plays number 8.
Have they really?
Yeah.
Right.
So statistically. It's not. It's a benefit.
Yeah.
Weirdly.
They're probably huge games, though, are they? When he's playing and against better opposition, perhaps.
I haven't drilled down enough.
I tell you, the thing is with England, I think that he's. I want to understand. I do like Eddie Jones and the way he is and everything, but the 2 comments he said is, one, it was my fault. I coached them badly to win in the World Cup final, which is a bit of an odd statement. And then the last week against France, I coached badly again, and it was my fault. Now, whether he tries to take the pressure off his players by saying that, I just don't get it. So if they lose in Scotland, and the pressure's on him, once again, who would they play then? Who would they play after?
Ireland.
Ireland. So, in Twickenham, Ireland going there, and if Ireland win, I think he's under a bit of pressure if they lose on the weekend.
What's the greatest team I'm going to make the greatest team that have ever played the game? I mean, again, we go back into that general outlook position. What's your state of the nation, let's call it, on Eddie Jones specifically?
We haven't got as much strength in depth of quality players that the rest of the rugby world seems to think.
More than Wales and Ireland and Scotland, though.
Quality? Well, if you look at England at the moment, so before this game at the weekend, there was Billy Vunipola and Mako Vunipola out. Watson and Manu Tuilagi injured. We're not the same. England are not the same team without those 4 players. How can 4 players make such a huge difference? And so that tells me the strength in depth, quality, strength in depth. We've got the numbers, but we haven't got the quality. I was so disappointed. I normally lose my head when England go out and play like that because making so many errors is unforgivable for a professional athlete. It's like watching cricket. If their technique's wrong, why is it wrong? You got all day and all night to practice that. So for me, it was a mental aberration. Sinclair knocking the ball on, Charlie Ewell's knocking the ball on, Owen Farrell knocking the ball on. It was like they had a plague of knock-ons, and it rarely happens for that
Long may it
length of
continue,
time.
though, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm saying, again, you know, you said, oh, we're going to be physical and brutal, and we're going to, you know, with Sean Edwards there, you knew that they were going to come in, and the noise, you know, in that stadium, it's a new era, new players, new coach, World Cup is there, you know, in 4 years' time. They were up for it. So any big hit would just erupt, you know, the crowd.
They didn't take the heat out of it,
so
did
they just said, right, let's turn them. Take the pressure. They'd be like, you know, chomping at the bit to get that England. So just keep off them. Just go, I'll tell you what, we'll deflate them all, just turn them, keep it quiet, play in their own 22. And they didn't. And I think, you know, it was extraordinary. And when Eddie puts the pressure on them again, he tries to take it off them, but then goes, oh, yeah, we're going to be the best side in the world. Yeah. You got to earn that. I know if he says it indoors, that's fair enough. But I just think at the moment...
It's a strange one.
Yeah, he's putting pressure on his players when he's trying to take the pressure off them. So it's odd.
We got your match prediction earlier in the week, so I won't go for that. But in one word each, who's going to win the Six Nations?
France for me.
Ireland.
I think it's, if you look at it, it all comes down to who's playing where. And I think France have got Ireland and England over there. But England have got Wales and Ireland at home. So, you know, if England win this week, they're back. You know, they're back in prime position. So, home advantage is huge in the Six Nations. But France, you know, who knows? No.
Ireland will take that.
I can't believe you're all so pessimistic.
I know,
you're so miserable. You know, all so miserable.
Normally rely on the Welsh for that.
They're all coming over. I'm going home. I'm missing the mad taffs in the air.
Oh, are you? I was going to ask if you have a nice quiet day planned.
No, unfortunately, I've got. We got to go. Jerry's going to.
I'm going back for breakfast.
Scotland.
Now.
He's going back for breakfast. I'm going back to Cardiff because ITV have got it. So you know, we're supposed to do. I was supposed to do Radio 5, but unfortunately, there's no flights out to Paris on Saturday night. So and I didn't want to catch the 6 o'clock Sunday, no chance. Because I've done it before, I've gone straight to it from Reynard's to the airport from Reynard's. So I'm getting too old for that now.
We're getting to learn a lot about you, Jonathan, this morning. Lads, pleasure chatting to you. Enjoy the rugby of the weekend. Thanks for coming in.